In today's video, we're going to talk through some real-world applications of percents that we use on a daily basis when we're shopping or at a restaurant. So first, we're going to talk about percent markup and what that means to us. And we're also going to talk about percent discount and how we use that on a regular basis. And then we'll end by calculating the sales tax and the tip for a meal if we were to go to a restaurant. So let's begin by taking a look at percent markup. And this is actually something that you encounter every single time you go to the store or you're shopping online and you purchase an item. So you all know that businesses purchase items to sell in their store. They all purchase these items, and what they do is they use this concept of percent markup to alter the price of an item, and ultimately their goal in doing so is to make a profit. They have to make a profit, otherwise they can't pay their employees and things like that. So the definition of percent markup is an increase from the wholesale price of an item. So what that means is we have a wholesale price, and this is what the store pays. And what's going to happen is we're going to add a percent markup to it. So we're going to add a percent to it, and we'll talk about that as we do some examples together. And then what happens after we add that percent is we have the retail price, which is the price of the item in the store. And we're going to talk about how stores actually calculate this percent value that they add on to the wholesale in order to calculate what their retail price of an item should be. So let's start by looking at an example from Kohl's. So the wholesale price of an item, remember this is what Kohl's pays. The wholesale price of the shoes that Kohl's buy is $9. So we have our whole sale price, and that is $9. That is what Kohl's pays for an item. And what this next part says is it says that Kohl's marks up the price by 150%. So what we have to do is we have to figure out what we're going to add on here in order to calculate our retail price. So what we have to calculate is we have to actually calculate the markup value that we need to add on to that $9. So Kohl's marks up the price by 150%. So what we need to do is we need to turn 150% into a number or a decimal that we can use. And we know that we can do that by taking 150 and putting it over 100. So if we take 150, we divide it by 100, what you'll find in your calculator is that equals 1.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1.5, which is 150% written as a decimal, and we're going to multiply it by $9. So if we take 1.5, we multiply it by 9, we end up with $13.5. So what you can see here is we're going to take the original $9 that Kohl's paid, and we're going to mark up the price by 150%. And we do that by taking $9, multiplying it by 150% as a decimal, which is $13.50. And then we take those two numbers together, we take the wholesale and the markup, and we add them together. And when we add them together, we end up with a price of $22.50. So as we calculate percent markup, what we're doing is we're calculating what Kohl's charges for this pair of shoes. So essentially what's happening here is Kohl's pays this wholesale price of $9. They then mark up the price by $13.50, and they sell it for $22.50 so that they can make a profit of $13.50 for each pair of shoes that they sell. So that's what percent markup does, and it's what it's used for in our daily lives. Stores take percent markup and mark up their prices so that they can make a profit when they sell the item. So now let's take a look at another example. So here we see that Barnes & Nobles, we have a book that is purchased by Barnes & Nobles at a wholesale price of $5. So our wholesale price, what Barnes & Nobles pays, is $5. This is our wholesale. It's what Barnes & Noble pays for the item. And then Barnes & Noble is going to mark up this item by 350%. So remember, we have to calculate what that markup value actually is. So we start by turning our percent into a decimal. We take 350, we divide it by 100, which gives us a decimal of 3.5. And then we take 3.5 and we multiply it by our wholesale price of $5. So remember, we have the amount that Barnes & Noble's paid, which is $5. Then we have the amount that they're going to mark it up by, which is 3.5 times 5, which is $17.50. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that wholesale and we're going to add it together with the markup that Barnes & Noble is making so that they'll make a profit of $17.50 on each pair of shoes. And then total, Barnes & Noble is charging $22.50 for that particular item. So again, note we have the wholesale price that Barnes & Noble's paid. We then mark it up by 350%, which is $17.50, for a total of $22.50. This is your retail price, which means this is what it's sold for in the store, so that Barnes & Noble can make that 350% profit of $17.50 per book. So now let's take a look at percent discount. So percent discount is also something that you're probably very familiar with because oftentimes customers take their normal price of an item and they offer discounts on those items. And you should know that discounts mean we pay less as the consumer. So the definition of a percent discount is a decrease in the original retail price of an item. So this is different than markup. Markup is what the company marks it up to so they can make a profit, and a discount is what the company is taking off so that we can save money based off their normal retail price. So in order to calculate this, we're going to take our retail price. Remember, this is what we normally would pay for that item. And what we're going to do is we're going to subtract out our discount, which will be some sort of percent of that retail price. So we're going to subtract out the discount so that ultimately what we pay is this discounted price of whatever that value would be. So percent discount is different. Percent discount saves us money, whereas percent markup is how a business is going to make money off of you. So now let's dive in and try some examples here. This one says that at Kohl's, a pair of pants has an original retail price of $40. So this is our retail price, and this is what we normally pay for that item. So remember, retail means we normally pay this amount for that item. And here that amount is $40. But we have a 30% off coupon. If you have a Kohl's charge card in your family, you probably know what I'm talking about. So we have a 30% off coupon, which means we are going to save 30% on that item. So we're going to calculate this value very similar to the way that we calculated percent markup. We're going to take 30% and we're going to turn it into a decimal, which we do by taking 30 and dividing it by 100, which leaves us with 0.3. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 0.3 and we're going to multiply it by that original $40 that those pants would have normally been. So we're going to figure out what 30% of 40 actually is. So we take 0.3, we multiply it by 40, and we get 12. So our discount is $12. Now remember, discounts save us money. So percent discounts get subtracted off that original amount. We don't want to pay more if we have a discount. We should be paying less. So remember, with percent markup, they're marking up the price. It should get bigger. And with percent discount, we're decreasing the price because we will have to pay less. So if we take 40 and we subtract out 12, we end up with $28. So that discount of 30% results in us saving money. So example 2 here says, at Walmart, The Greatest Showman is sold on Blu-ray for $22. So our normal retail price that we normally pay is $22. But this week they're having a sale and it's 25% off. So we're ultimately trying to find the discounted price of that Blu-ray. So remember, a discount means that our price is going to go down. So we need to figure out what that discount is. How many dollars do we actually get off? Well, 25%, we need to start by turning that into a decimal. So 25 over 100 is equal to 0.25. So we're going to take 0.25 and we're going to multiply that by the $22 so that we can figure out what 25% of 22 actually is. And if we use our calculator to help us figure out what that is, we find that 25% of $22 is $5.50. So we have our retail price of $22 and our discount of $5.50. And remember, a discount means our price is going to go down. So we're going to subtract that out of 22. And if we take 22 and we subtract $5.50, we find that the new price that we have to pay as the consumer is $17.50. So remember, discount goes down, percent markup goes up. So the last thing we're going to talk about here is something called sales tax and tip. And typically, if you go out to a restaurant, you have to do both of these things. So we're going to use restaurants in our examples for these. But a sales tax is a percentage amount that you are taxed on your total bill. So this is something that you pay normally when you go clothes shopping or you go to a restaurant or things like that. However, an extra fun fact that you might not know is that this concept of sales tax on clothes, you are taxed on clothes in Wisconsin, but you are not taxed on clothes in Minnesota, which is why a lot of people come there to go and shop at the Mall of America for clothes. So sales tax is something that you are charged most of the time when you buy something, definitely when you go to a restaurant on your bill, and it really varies by state and by then county within that state. So every little area has their own unique sales tax. On top of that, we also have a tip when we're in a restaurant. So you've probably heard people in your life talk about, leaving a 15% tip or a 20% tip or a 25% tip, whatever suits their fancy. And that percentage is based off of the amount that your bill actually is. So we're going to talk through, if we get a bill, how do we calculate our sales tax? And then how do we also calculate our tip for that particular meal? So easiest way to learn this is to jump right in with an example. So say you go to dinner with your family at Buffalo Wild Wings and you have a total bill of $52.50. So when your waitress brings you your bill, this is how much the food costs basically straight off the menu, but it does not include sales tax or a tip. So the first thing it says is you are charged a 5% sales tax. What will your final bill be? Now, sales tax is going to increase your total bill by a small percentage. So this is going to be very similar to the percent markup problems that we talked about earlier in this video. So what we need to do is we need to calculate what our sales tax cost is actually going to be. So we're going to take $52.50 and we're going to add 5% in sales tax to that in order to calculate what our final bill will be after sales tax. So remember, we need to use that percentage and turn it into a decimal. So here I'm going to take 5% and turn it into a decimal by taking 5 over 100, which is going to give me 0.05. So here we're going to take 0.05 and we're going to multiply it by our bill of $52.50. So notice how similar this is to the percent markup problems that we did earlier today. So I still have $52.50, and now what I'm going to do here is calculate what my sales tax is actually going to be. So we're going to take 0.05 and multiply it by $52.50. And when I do that, I discovered that my sales tax is about 2.6, and we're going to round to 2 decimal places, 3. So what we're doing is we're taking 5% of that bill, and we're tacking it on as sales tax. Notice this addition sign here. So when we add these two together, we take 5250, and then we tack on the 5% sales tax, which is 2.63. So our bill after sales tax is going to be approximately $55.13. So that's our bill with sales tax. So now that we have our bill with sales tax, what we're going to do is we're going to leave our server a 20% tip. So we're going to calculate this in a very similar way. We're going to take this new value of 55.13 and we're going to add onto it a 20% tip because our server did an excellent job. So again, we're going to be adding on to our bill. We're adding on to it because we want to leave that server a nice tip. So again, to begin, we're going to take 20% and we're going to turn it into a decimal by taking 20 divided by 100, which is 0.20. So I'm going to take 0.20 and I'm going to multiply it by 55.13 because that is what my bill is currently at with its sales tax. So to find 20% of 55.13, I take 0.2 and multiply it by 55.13. And what I find is that that tip is approximately $11.03. So now I'm going to take my bill of 55.13, add it together with my 20% tip of 11.03, and as I do that, I have a final bill of 66.16. So I'm noticing here that I start with my original amount, I tack on 5% sales tax, I then take that new value and I tack on a 20% tip for a total of $66.16 as the final amount that I pay for that meal. And final example here, it says you go to dinner at Olive Garden with your significant other and have a total bill of $38.62. So that's what we paid, remember, straight off the menu prices all added together. So since Olive Garden is in Minnesota, they have a higher sales tax of 6.875%. What will your final bill be after sales tax? So here we're going to go through that same process. We're going to start with that $38.62 and we're going to add on that sales tax to get a final value for our bill. And as a result, I'm going to take that 6.875%, so 6.875, and divide that by 100 to figure out what that would be as a decimal. So there I get 0.06875. So in order to calculate how much I need to add on to my bill, I'm going to take 0.06875 and I'm going to multiply it by 38.62. So if I take my calculator and go 0.06875 times 38.62, I find that this amount I'm adding on is approximately, rounded to 2 decimal places, 2.66. So that's what my tax will be added on to that particular bill. So I'm going to then take 38.62, going to add on 2.66, and I find that my total amount that I pay after sales tax is $41.28. So this is with my sales tax all added on. So now I'm going to take this new amount of $41.28 and I'm going to calculate what my tip will be. So we had an exceptional server that night, and as a result, we decided to tip the waitress or waiter 25% after sales tax. So remember, again, we're going to be adding on to this amount, trying to determine how much we're actually going to add on in order to provide that waitress or waiter with a 25% tip. So 25% written as a decimal would be 25 divided by 100, which becomes 0.25. So we're going to take 0.25 and we're going to multiply that by our amount, which is right here, 41.28. So 0.25 times 41.28 is approximately $10.32. So in order to leave a 25% tip, I would need to tack on $10.32 to my total bill. So if I add that $10.32 with $41.28, I end up with a total bill with sales tax and tip of $51.60. So that's what I would pay at the restaurant in full after paying sales tax and after adding on my 25% tip.